Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Arabrot album, self-titled. This band is a Norwegian rock outfit, and their lineup has been a bit of a revolving door since they've been dropping releases in the early 2000s. Right now they seem to be functioning off of two core members who collaborate with a bunch of different musicians and noisemakers and producers to create their records. And I heard an EP of theirs that they dropped this year called Murder is the Art. Had 3 tracks on it that were a bit of a mixed bag. One was a bit of a generic sludge metal track, one was an 8-minute noise piece, and another was sort of a noise rock sludge metal combo that was 15 minutes long that had this sort of hypnotic, repetitious, thunderous riff approach, not too unlike something Swans would do. The EP caught my attention and made me want to dive into the band's other records, look back into their discography, and I found that they came out with an album this year. And it's like their 6th album. And the sounds that were on these albums was pretty interesting in terms of just the stylistic influence combinations. We're getting really heavy, just bassy sludge metal and some elements of noise rock too, topped with some pretty eccentric vocals that vary from these deep, guttural growls to these somewhat deadpan and nasally moans and some very hellish, devilish, snake-like whisper hiss. I liked the variety that the vocals brought to the table, but still, listening to these records back to back, I kind of got this sense that Arabrot is the sort of band that slowly fine-tunes its sound over years upon years upon years rather than coming through with something completely radical and different with each new release. A lot like a band such as High on Fire or the Melvins to a lesser extent, both of which I'm sure Arabrot takes at least a little bit of influence from, especially given that they have worked with producers that have created some of the best albums from those bands, people like Billy Anderson, as well as Steve Albini. So the years that this band has been spending on the heavier side of things has definitely resulted in them having a very aggressive and ear-catching sound. I wouldn't say the riffs on this LP are thunderous like they're raining down from the sky, but they are pretty aggressive and they do bring the rumble. The good of these characteristics is that the album is loud as hell and that the vocals are so weird and just off the chart when it comes to the general sludge metal sound that it's hard not to get caught up in the eccentricity that Arabrot brings to the table. Like the very throaty, snide whispers on the opening track here, "The blood on the floor is yours." Then there is the song Throwing Rocks at the Devil, which is maybe my favorite track on this entire LP. Has a fantastic guitar lead that feels sort of influenced by Middle Eastern music or music from the Eastern Bloc, and just these really hard-hitting juts of guitar, bass, and drums just syncopated. And the vocals are all over the map. We have the very gruff growls screaming this fantastic hook, and then shortly after we're getting these just nasally moans coming back, "Throwing rocks at the devil." It's a great track. The bad side of some of these characteristics, though, is that the album is so boomy. It is so boomy, man. Like, especially the drums. And the drums do get to the point where at times they swallow up the vocals. They swallow up the guitars and kind of cover everything else that's going on. A lot like on the Horns of the Devil Grow. Or the vocals here can get so weird that they feel a little silly and kind of take away from the aggression of the song, like Blood on the Poet, which oddly enough is sort of inspired by a pretty odd French film of a similar title. I do like the wailing lead guitars in the background on this track, but man, do the vocals just doom-da-dee-da feel a little absurd, and not necessarily in like a flattering way. I do like that this band has some odd lyrical concepts though, and while that's great, it doesn't necessarily make up for what I think is this album's biggest issue, and that is the riffs and the song structures not really being that interesting or adventurous. I actually think a majority of the riffs on this album are pretty inconspicuous and standard when it comes to the sludge metal sound, especially the lead single on here, Blood on Bunny, which is maybe the most forgettable track on this entire album just because of how bland the riffage is. If the riffs are going to be this overly simplistic, I wish they would come through with more tracks like Drawing Down the Moon, where essentially we not only have these basic riffs, but we have a bunch of noises and sounds and sound play going on in the background just to kind of keep things layered and engaging. Because this track is not only sludgy, but also psychedelic and borderline disturbing with just how chaotic it is. The horns in the second half of this track too sound fantastic and make this song sound really anthemic. Overall, while I did like the odd vocals and I thought the guitars and the riffs on here were very visceral, I thought the recording was heavy, and there is some sound play on this self-titled LP. For sure, this record does have its eccentric moments, but there just wasn't enough of a structural or a melodic or a musical appeal for much of what's here to stick with me. And I mean, we're talking about noise rock and sludge metal on here. When it comes to melody, I'm not looking for a whole ton. I'm feeling a decent strong 6 on this thing. Transition. If you've listened to this album, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. Anthony Fantano, Arabrot, self-titled, forever.